The Twins are starting the second half. Joe Mauer's going into the Hall of Fame. But right now, we're going to talk about trade deadline targets. So it would be a good idea if you got Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to destination for the latest Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, analysis, guesswork, gastrointestinal work. It's a reminder, too, that the Locked On Twins podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which brings you your team every day. And in this case, that team would be the Minnesota Twins. My name's Dave Brown. I'm one of your co-hosts. I've been in the Baseball Writers Association since 2012, and I've been a ball writer since 1998. I currently reside in the Kansas City area, but don't hold that against me. Across cyberspace is your other co-host, Brandon Warren. Brandon, tell them a little bit about Brandon.
I have been watching the Twins for 30 years. I believe this is actually year 32. So that's
well, which is it?
Yeah, 32. Oh, because I get confused with, you have to add a year and subtract whatever. Anyway, it's the 32nd year, but covering them for about half that long and doing this show now on the second go round for me. The first time around was when the show was launched, but we're happy to be here one way or the other. And by the way, this episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today.
So the trade deadline's coming up. I know the Twins have lots of stuff going on otherwise. We've just finished the draft. The second half is starting. The Twins, as we tape, are about to play their first game of the second half. Big series against the Brewers. I don't know. You don't call it I guess you call it interstate rivalry, a border war, if you will. Joe Mauer is going into the Hall of Fame on Sunday. So lots of stuff going on, but we're going to focus on the trade deadline, which is, I believe, 10 days away.
Correct.
Or 9 and counting, July 30th. And the Twins they're expected to be buyers to some degree. We're not real sure how much they'll be buying, but they have a good shot of winning the AL Central, a possibility of having the best record in the American League. So there's a lot to buy. I don't know, Brandon, if you thought about like how much you think the Twins will be buying. I know we're going to focus on some players that sort of our wish list, if you will, who we think would make the best trade targets for the Twins one way or another. But do you think they're going to be big spenders, middle spenders, suspenders? What's your guess?
Yeah, suspenders sounds about right. But I don't know. I know that the report or the general consensus is don't expect them to go crazy. Don't expect them to trade for someone with multiple years of control, especially if those years of control are expensive. So I don't know, though. I mean, they're in a spot where if there is a player available who has more than this year of control and can help the team not only this year but next year, I really think they should consider that. And at least one trade candidate that I'm sure you also came up with is under contract for next year. It's one we mentioned in our most recent episode before. But other than that, though, I'm not expecting anything crazy. I am entirely pitching focused. There was one hitting target that I believe. Were you ever a contemporary of R.J. Anderson?
Oh, absolutely. I worked with R.J. for 1 year at CBS. So
he had a position player that he thought was a fit for the Twins, and we can talk about that as well. But it's pitching for me. And honestly, really, I'm not putting much effort into relievers because everybody will want relief help. Mason Miller may or may not go. Kirby Yates may or may not go. We really don't know. And so there's not really much point in spending time on it. So spoiler alert, I have loaded up on starting pitching, which should not surprise anybody who has watched more than 5 minutes of the show in the last few weeks.
Just don't load up on rosin and sunscreen as you load up on that starting pitching because the umps will get you. Well, do you want to begin with since you have so many starting pitchers? I have a bunch too.
Yeah.
We're both going to try and talk about 5 persons apiece. Who's your first person?
I mean, Yusei Kikuchi, I keep coming back to. So he is on or right around the edge of top 30 in Fangraphs WAR among all pitchers at 2.0. And at the same time, the ERA doesn't look great. The peripheral stuff looks pretty good. He is giving up some home runs, which, he has done at times. But when I think about what this Twins rotation lacks, certainly bringing someone from the left side who throws hard and putting them in the lab, the Mackey lab, to see what he could be capable of down the stretch is at the very least interesting to me. Eligible for free agency after this year, which I think is kind of the name or the main thing for these names that you should hone in on, because while the smart money is again on quote unquote rentals, I don't think they're going to limit themselves to that if the right deal becomes available. There's a teammate of his. I don't want to steal anybody you might have, but if Chris Bassett became available, would you say no just because he's under contract next year? Because he's the kind of guy I could see the Twins liking. Now, with that said, his age, his money, probably not. But if the Blue Jays have a Chris Bassett burning a hole in their pocket and want to dump him, you got to listen.
Well, I think you've started with maybe not the best pitcher available, but certainly one who is likely to be dealt, one who is probably affordable from whatever's left of his salary, and even in a trade standpoint with the Twins.
Yeah.
About it's also about giving up resources and what they want to do there. He's a guy with not a lot of miles on him, but enough that he's not under contract next year. I think that's probably maybe the most realistic. If the Twins are going to add a starting pitcher, I think he's kind of right in the middle in terms of hitting the target of what they need. I'd like to think that they could do better. They could go out and the best pitcher who might be on the market and would cost them a lot is Tarek Skubal of the Tigers. I think there's very little chance that it's going to happen because it's an interdivisional issue with the Tigers. And I also don't know if the Tigers are going to commit to trading him. The Tigers have another pitcher in the rotation who's going to be a free agent who probably would be more likely. But I just think the one downside with Skubal is that he's never gone past 150 innings.
So is he one of your 5? Should I write him down?
Yeah, write him down. He's okay. My number 1. I would. I'm just kind of all in on him. I mean, it would cost you, Erod in the minor leagues. It would cost you. It would cost you Festa probably. That's probably the starting point. And I don't know that I just think the Twins are in a spot where they should go for it now. These points don't come along very often, and I don't know. The
fact that we had an episode about the Twins possibly being the best team in the AL tells you the state of the Twins, first of all, and the state of the AL on the whole. Like, they are in that mix where they could be the best team in the AL if they play strong in the second half.
There are downsides to this, but the Twins have a lot of resources in the minor leagues. Skubal is not a free agent yet. You would at least get him 2027? Is that
sounds about right? If that's the case, you'd get 2 more years after this,
right? So it wouldn't be forever, but it would be within the window that we're in now. He's read all over the place on StatCast. The downsides, of course, would be what you'd have to give up and trading top prospects to a team in your division.
Right.
The Tigers are still rebuilding here after many years. That's the other thing. You never know when you're going to get a chance. The Tigers have been rebuilding for like 5 years, and they're closer to possibly winning, but they're not close to winning.
Yeah.
So I just think you open up the bank for Tarek Skubal. He's my number 1.
Would it be crazy to say, hey, if we're going to give you all this, we want Spencer Torkelson back as like a reclamation project?
I mean, something like that. I would say that's a smart way, generally speaking, to deal. I don't know if that's the guy, But
And
I
they
would
may
say,
not want to do that, but
yeah, I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't. Maybe
But
they still
if
think it's
Skubal
part of their
doesn't fit their
rebuilding.
window, Torkelson, who looks like he could be the next Andrew Vaughn, might not either. I don't know. I mean, again, it's not the craziest thing I've ever said, but that's a pretty low bar to clear.
The Tigers do have other parts that I would definitely be interested in trading for, guys that could help you win this year. I think Mark Hanna could be a guy. He's not sexy at all, but that's somebody that you could put as a right-handed hitter in left field.
For sure.
And you wouldn't, really good reputation for teammate and that kind of thing. So anyway, those are our first two guys. You say Kikuchi, and I say Tarek Skubal. And now let's do a commercial break.
Quickly, though, RJ Anderson said Taylor Ward, who I like as a player, but just don't see a fit when you have Austin Martin, Brooks Lee, and a bunch of other guys who can all kind of do the thing he does well. But as a player, I wouldn't hate it. So I don't know if you have any thoughts before we go into break on that, but I don't see
Taylor Ward's definitely on my list of possible, it doesn't, I don't know that he, I haven't really liked Austin Martin in left field very much. He made one nice play and some other very curious ones.
Would you trade Austin Martin in that trade?
For Taylor Ward?
Yeah.
I don't know that you'd have to, but
you might not. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know that you'd have to. Taylor Ward, just gonzo against left-handed pitching.
Yeah.
Great, not very good against right-handed pitching. So I would emphasize that if I were Falvey or Levine in trade talks. I'd say, hey, this guy's half a ball player. And you guys are half an organization. Just give him to us. Trying
to make a great trade, Falvey. All right, let's take our break. And then when we come back, we'll get back to pitching. This episode of Locked On Twins is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Summer travel is heating up, especially baseball games. Or if you're headed to Cooperstown, if you're headed to Cooperstown, you're late. But baseball games, all that fun stuff as we get into the second half of the season. You can explore those U.S. cities you haven't been to before and secretly wanted to. Maybe you don't want people to know that you're checking out Kansas City behind enemy lines, or Chicago, or Detroit, or wherever, Milwaukee. Twins are in Minnesota, by the way. Again, regret that mistake from a couple shows ago.
Nobody even remembers. Only you remember.
I'm beating myself up over it. But with hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, family-friendly stuff, you can find a perfect stay on Booking.com, maybe overlooking the stadium. I don't know if you could do Toronto in that hotel. Is it what's that hotel called? Do you even know? The Renaissance?
Anymore? I don't know. I'm not sure what the Toronto hotel was. I stayed in that hotel and I watched a game from it when I was a child. Well,
pretty cool.
Adultish. Oh yeah, that should be a bucket list for every baseball player, going to Toronto and watching a game from the Sky Dome Hotel, whatever brand it is.
Booking.com wants to emphasize, though, your rivals can be in great cities that you need to check out besides. So get that summer road trip going. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. For instance, I love Kansas City, and they're a rival. So book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. And of course, our friends at PrizePicks want you to know that they are number one in America among DFS apps with over 5 million active members. Easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because it's just you against the numbers. You pick between 2 to 6 stat projections. You just go more than, you go less than, and watch your winnings roll in. And if you push all the right buttons, you can turn $10 into $1,000, whether you're watching WNBA, MLB, or if you wait a little while, we've got all kinds of fun fall and winter sports coming up. But I would recommend not waiting. So get in on the MLB and WNBA stuff. I know NBA finals are done. I know NHL Stanley Cup finals are done, but we've got a fun new breed of talent in the WNBA. You got Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and you've got the established superstars like Kelsey Plum, Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier here. The links have been absolutely tremendous. And you can win up to 100 times your money watching them ball out. Take a look at PrizePicks. See if you are in one of the 30-plus states across the country where you are eligible to play. And download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
We're talking trade targets as the trade deadline approaches. We're about 9 days and change away as we record from the trade deadline and the
about an IL stint away if you're a position player.
yeah, depending on not one of those brain injury IL stints. Those are only 7 days because the brain is obviously less important. So we've talked about a bunch of players. We've probably given one person each so far.
Yes.
Like one main dude. My second dude, if I can do two,
Yeah.
we'll do the snake style.
Sure.
If you don't get Tarek Skubal, you got to get Nathan Eovaldi.
Yep,
for
I
the
just pulled
Rangers.
him up for my next one, but honestly, I was ready either way.
Well, he is going to be 35 next year.
Yep.
And he's got a vesting option. See my vesting option for, I want to say 20 million. So that's a lot of money. But
if he gets there, that's kind of the point, right? Like if he gets to that inning count.
When you talk about pitchers who are available in arbitration and whatever,
right,
it's going to be like that. It's going to be upper teens, lower 20s probably by the time, I don't know what the how inflation factors in or what the arbitration schedule is yet. We don't know yet, but it's going to be something like that. Certainly worth it. But again, it's $20 million and Polads might go, whoa, wait a minute.
By the way, the last 5 years, so he had a 5.99 ERA with Boston in 2019 at age 29. You almost got to wonder if your career is winding down at that point, right? The last 5 years, including the shortened 2020 season, these are his ERAs. 3.72, 3.75, 3.87, 3.63, 3.36. So not only is he as good as he's ever been in that stretch, but he puts up virtual carbon copies of each season. Now, he will not walk anybody. The strikeouts vacillate on one end or the other of one per inning, but still relatively healthy at 8.5. And yeah, again, if he's keeping the ball in the ballpark, this is a really nice, like, ready-made number 2 starter.
Yeah, I would say for sure. I mean, he's, maybe not high ace, but he's low ace potential. He's definitely one of the 30 best pitchers in the league.
How much do you think the Rangers are trying to get out from under that money with how much they have committed already? Because I don't think it's necessarily a huge factor, but it might be more than we're giving credit for, right?
Yeah, I think the Rangers are going to – I'm not sure that Eovaldi's going to be available. I'm not 100% sure.
Right. Well, we don't know if
Skubal
is going to be either. We're just kind of wish casting here.
Yeah, I think it's probably – I don't know if it's more or less of a certainty that Eovaldi's available. But it depends on what the market is for Max Scherzer.
Yep.
A pitcher of similar age.
He's got to have a full NTC, right?
That too. That's true. I don't know. I doubt that Eovaldi has that.
I mean Scherzer and Verlander.
Verlander's yeah, right.
Because Astros are playing well, but
right. But also Scherzer, I don't know. Yeah, like, does Scherzer want to move again? Does he care even at this point? Does he just want one more ring? Is he chasing a ring? And I don't say that in a negative. They shouldn't be chasing. I mean, that's what it's all about at this point when you're at that stage of your career. So I don't begrudge that 1 second. The thing about the Rangers is next year, I would expect them to be World Series contenders. The Tigers are not going to be World Series contenders. So, in all likelihood. So I think maybe that's the thing for Skubal being available, but not Eovaldi, because they're going to have Jacob deGrom coming back, I think, at some point late this season.
Right.
So the Rangers are going to want to contend for the World Series next year, and Eovaldi would make sense for that. So I don't know if my first 2 targets are even all that realistic. But.
Well, and you're not replacing him for $20 million, sorry, on the open market either. So there is a lot to unpack there. So for me, number 4 for us overall is Eric Fedde. And I've evoked the name Colby Lewis a few times, but coming back from overseas pitching in Korea, and only 1 year. Right. But not just 1 year away. Some of these guys take 2-3 years and then they come back as a different version of themselves. Fedde has come back and has cut, 3 runs off his ERA almost. Yeah,
with a
5 8
really bad defense and no hope whatsoever on the White Sox. That's the most impressive thing to me, that he's been able to flourish individually in that awful cesspool on the
right.
South Side.
And he's getting some grounders, which has kind of always been his thing. The strikeouts are, they're kind of there. They're as there as they've ever been in his career. Doesn't walk anybody, and he's signed through next year. It was a 2-year deal for $15 million, so it's a very reasonable number. If you're the White Sox, you probably are saying, "Hey, we want to hold him from a leverage standpoint, but listen, come get him. We know we're not doing anything even next year." And I think I've seen a few people from the White Sox side say, hey, they're going to probably punt next year and really hope to ramp up in 2026, which I find hard to believe we're already toward that.
A lot of punting going on with that team. A lot of punting.
Yeah. So Fetty's available. There's no denying that he may not go. Maybe the
His
White
value
Sox
is never going to be higher than right now because he's healthy, looking good, signed through next year for $7.5 million.
That's nothing.
It's I mean, the only thing is, if you have like a coming to Jesus with the, how bad do you really want to make the team? I mean, are you going for 16 wins? Because I mean, they have barely any good players anyway, and they're going to lose well over 100 games and probably set the team record for most losses. Do you really want to go into next season? I mean, what are you doing to your people? Are going to run from season tickets. They're not going to watch on TV.
Yeah.
It's so depressing that don't you have to give the fans of today something to hold on to? I mean, we'll see. You would think that they could get a lot for Fetty. I mean, that's a good reason to trade him. But I think there are reasons to hold on to him too.
By the way,
I don't know if he's going to be available or not.
By Fangraphs WAR, he would be better than any other Twins pitcher. So I mean, if fans aren't familiar with how well he has pitched this year, that's pretty telling. Like, he's had a really nice year in somewhat obscurity. So let's see, Evaldi and Fetty. I have my list written down so I don't forget anybody. We'll get one more in. We'll get to the halfway point, and then we'll break. And when we come back, we'll be kind of in a mad scramble. But Cal Quantrill is my next one. And with Quantrill, it's not so much that he's a line mover. It's just that when I was trying to think, there was someone I thought of him. Oh, I thought Quantrill had, and again, this is going to seem silly just based on his rates, a little bit of Kevin Gaussman reclamation project to him. You'd have to find a way to get him striking people out. But in terms of, the velo has been pretty good. And I think the Twins could probably massage some more of that out of him. I don't know. I just think as far as reclamation projects go, he's having a pretty good year outside of how he started. In fact, I think since like the beginning of May, he's been pretty good. And again, strikeouts not really there. So you'd have to convince yourself that you can add some of those. But for my money, for the acquisition cost, I would go with Cal Quantrill as one of my guys.
I know we have statistical filters in place to put out a guess on like ballpark equalizers and neutralizers and that kind of thing. But to me, it's just really impressive when anybody can go to Colorado and come out clean on the other side as far as pitchers go. It's just such a difficult place. You got to worry about the home runs. You got to worry about all the space in the outfield, giving up singles and doubles that you wouldn't otherwise give up. You got to worry about playing for the Rockies, who are right now hopelessly lost as an organization. He's definitely going to be moved. I don't know how much he moves the needle. Like, is he so much better than Simeon Woods Richardson? I could see Simeon Woods Richardson with a little more experience becoming a pitcher like Cal Quantrill that you'd want to have at the back of your rotation. And, is that good enough now to maybe get a guy who's better than that class and then keep Simeon Woods Richardson at the back of the rotation to have him? So that's kind of where I am with Cal.
He ended April with a 5.34 ERA. Since then, 3.66, 4.14 FIP. So not like he's pitching out of his mind. 66 strikeouts, 27 walks, 8 home runs, and 76 and 1/3 innings. So that's a slash line against of 241, 328, 403 which is not great. It's not horrible, but he's been good enough. Again, this would be probably more along the lines for me of a go get him and see what you can do with him to improve him with, I believe, one more year of control. I think he's making like $6 million and change and is under control for next year. The Rockies probably don't want to make the decision whether or not to tender him because, of course, he's solid. But I mean, do they want to spend $10 million on a pretty good number 3-4 starter on a team that just stinks right now? Again, that's probably still a yes. But at what point does he have more value for someone else than he does for you?
They've made bad decisions before. So I think whatever the Rockies are going to do, what they end up doing is the thing that they should not do.
Yeah, no, I think you're
whatever
right.
that means. You want to take a break, did you say?
Let's take a quick pause. When we come back, it'll be Dave for 2, me for 2, and then Dave to wrap it up. But again, let's wrap it up here with our last 2 spots. We got to give some love to SupplyHouse.com. You can get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. It's the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the game and talk to a real person every time. And if you're a pro in the skilled trade, you can get a competitive advantage by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trademaster program. Now, every free Trademaster program participant gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every single order. So join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. And of course, where would we be without our friends at FanDuel? We love sports. We love them so much. But at this time of year, it's just not as fun for those of us who like to turn on the TV and find a game from a different sport every single night. So whether you want MLB, NBA, NHL, there's a bit of overlap there, but that is not the case right now. Right now, we're looking at MLB, and that's about it. But FanDuel wants you to know that they will help you out. They'll keep the sports going whenever you want. All you got to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime you're in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus every single day. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. That's all customers, not just the newbies. If you're an established, been there a while customer, you still get the hookup. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most of your summer. When we take a look at the Twins and the Brewers tonight, Twins -1.5 runs. It's a +140 on the spread. On the money line, it's a -156 for the Twins, and the over-under is 7.5. Make sure you check that out on FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Official Bort betting partner. I don't know what I was saying. Yeah, I sound like the Swedish chef.
So we're if you're just joining us, I would rewind, but if you don't, we're talking about Twins trade targets for the trade deadline, which is about 9 days and change away as we tape. We've talked about several, mostly pitchers so far: Tarek Skubal, Nathan Eovaldi, Cal Quantrill, Yusei Kikuchi, Eric Fetty. Those are the guys that Brandon and I have talked about. I've got a couple more here. Maybe the sweet spot on this, Zach Eflin from the Rays.
Oh, I like it.
He's owed $18 million next year, so that's the going rate.
For 1 year, I mean, a 1 year
for
deal
1 year, yes,
that good, you would do that. So I mean, it's not that tricky either.
We'll see what the Rays do at the deadline. I think they're going to retool a little bit. I believe. I think he's going to be available, and it would be a costly deal, but you've got a guy who has got several years of experience, not too much worn tread on the arm. I think he would fit in well as far as the Twins defense. They'd be helpful to him as far as ground balls go. I think Zach Eflin would be, I think there's a greater possibility he's going to be available at the deadline than the other players that I've mentioned so far.
He seems like he's like, this is obviously not an apt comparison if you really get down to the nitty gritty, but I like seeing when guys do that late career thing like Charlie Morton did, where the best version of themselves is after they turn 30.
Yeah.
Now, Eflin he turned 30 in April. So the last 2 years has been pretty dang good, almost a 5 WAR on Fangraphs pitcher last year, 177 and 2/3 innings. That nowadays is considered a bulldog. That's considered a guy who eats innings for you. And when a guy eats innings and strikes out a batter per inning, that's a pretty dang good starter. So I would love Zach Eflin as a target. Obviously cost pending, but as an individual pitcher trying to evaluate him, love it.
He was 6th in the Cy Young voting last year. His statistics this year are kind of mid. The Rays have had sort of a strange season. They haven't, they've had some injuries and they've had some other things go wrong.
Been kind of sleepwalking, though.
What's that?
Been kind of sleepwalking.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Kevin Cash needs to retool some things or what, but it's possible that the Rays might have a bunch of other players available too come deadline. So, all right, Zach Eflin. And then my next guy is probably going to be, you mentioned Bassett earlier, Jack Flaherty from the Tigers. I think Jack Flaherty.
Mention him. I would not have mentioned him, but you got to mention him.
He does have some baggage in terms of back injury that he takes shots for. He's got history of shoulder issues. This year, however, Jack Flaherty's been dynamite. It's been a couple years since he's been healthy for the Cardinals.
But so if you Google Jack Flaherty back and shoulder, you'll find results.
For sure.
Okay.
I mean, the last time he was fully healthy, I want to say, was like 2019. And that was a bad time for pitching. And he was 4th in the Cy Young. He's 13th in MVP voting. This is his second full season, 2.75 ERA. That's like the best. He's not quite that good this year.
What do you make of his attitude? I feel like he kind of comes across as a grump.
I don't know. I don't think that it is. I like that he's on the players union. So I mean, the squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing. Yeah. I think he's good in the clubhouse. There might be some issues as far as things that have happened to him, particularly him in his career, that maybe aren't his fault, that maybe cast him in kind of a muddy light as far as how he works with other people. But if you're high up in the players union, if you're a union representative, you're somebody who wants to be engaged in the future of your sport, and you're also popular enough to get that job. It's not, although it's a kind of a thankless job too, so not that many guys want to do it. But it denotes intelligence and enthusiasm and concern for the future. I think those, not intangibles, but those things that are a little harder to rate. Yeah. One man's grump is another man's, thoughtful, maybe sometimes taciturn personality. Yeah. So he's 28, so he's not even that old. His body's been through, this would not be a perfect acquisition, but I think the Tigers are probably going to keep Skubal. This guy, on the other hand, is going to be a free agent. I think he's going to move.
Yeah, the risk would be mitigated with the fact that you'd only have him through the rest of the year, barring one of those weird extensions that almost never happens to rental guys. So my next guy is, I believe that the Twins are operating under the motto, "We can fix him." And I feel like this guy has been destined to be a Twin for like 5 years now. His last 6 Fangraphs WAR have been 1-3, 1-5, 1-0, 1-1, 1-3, and then this year 1-4 through 95 innings. Do you have any idea who I'm talking about?
I'm not sure.
Andrew Heaney. So for Heaney, I like him from the left side. He is signed through the rest of this year for $12.5 million average annual value. It was a 2 and 25 deal. He has only thrown 150 innings once in his career. He threw 180 back with the Angels in 2018. Always giving up homers, which, if you believe you can help him neutralize in some form or fashion, that certainly boosts what you think he's worth to you. Not necessarily in a trade, but to you. Now, with that said, again, gives you a lefty. I don't know how much that matters in the grand scheme of things, but I like the strikeouts. I like that he doesn't really walk anybody. He's had a year or two there where he's, maybe been a little more walk susceptible, but not particularly terribly. And in general, though, I mean, he keeps you in ball games. Do I like him more than I like Chris Paddock? I think I would say slightly. 3.79 ERA is backed by a 3.93 xERA, so he's basically who he is at this point. And at 1.33 homers per 9, he's kind of teetering on the edge of, danger. But for my money, I think the acquisition cost would be reasonable. And so I am in favor of acquiring Andrew Heaney if that becomes an option.
His results have been solid. I think I would like him a little
outside
more
of being 3-10.
Well, the Rangers have had quite the funky season.
Well,
I don't like how his strikeouts have dropped so much. I mean, they're not that low compared to his career, but they're definitely trending downward. I mean, he had a 35.5% strikeout rate with the Dodgers. It was kind of a shorter season, though. It was only 14 starts in 2022, and they kind of used him as an opener almost. But so that bothers me a little bit. His walks are fine. He's solid. He's better than Paddock. He might even be better than Simeon Woods. Yeah. I worry about home runs sometimes with him, although
especially if he pitched in the playoffs.
For sure. Absolutely. So he's fine. He would improve the team, and he wouldn't cost as much as some of the other guys in trade. Right. So he would help the Twins at least get to the playoffs, if not anything beyond that.
So my initial inclination was to rescue another one of his teammates in Michael Lorenzen. Yeah. But the more I look at his numbers, the more I just don't see it. Like when I wanted the Twins to sign Lorenzen this spring, it was more, hey, look, he has been kind of like that Jesse Chavez mix and match. He can start, he can work in relief, he can do a few different things for you and give you a chance to win on any given day. If you fall behind 5-2 in the fourth inning and you need length, that's the guy who will keep you in a game. If you need a 5th/6th starter, again, same kind of deal. I like the repertoire in the sense that he threw hard enough. He's got some things that could work in the right situation. But I'm taking a trip back to Colorado. I want to rescue one of two teammates, either Austin Gomber, who probably is available just based on the fact that he's been there forever and seems to be getting worse. Strikeouts aren't there, giving up homers. But here's a name that I don't know that you would have thought of. Ryan Feltner. Now, I was looking at his numbers just kind of randomly, probably like 3-4 days ago. Been in the big leagues for parts of now 4 seasons. And so you got 8 strikeouts per 9, 2.9 walks per 9, 1.06 homers per 9, a ground ball rate of 46.4. So he's at or above league averages across the board. But here's where it gets him. 333 batting average on balls in play. So the grounders aren't being picked up. And a 58.4% strand rate. And he's at 61.9% for his career. So that's going to drive down a 5.36 ERA to a 4.10 xERA, a 4.04 xFIP. Basically, it's saying, hey, the best is yet to come for this guy. He's 27. He will turn 28 in September, just around the corner here, about 6-7 weeks away. I don't know. I mean, he is pretty low service time, but at the same time, I think you could convince the Rockies to move him. I've always liked German Marquez over there. I like John Gray beforehand. I've always felt like you could do kind of like a Garrett Cole rescue project where when Cole left the Pirates, he went from really good to like insanely good. And I feel like you could do that with Rockies guys and this development system here in Minnesota. So Feltner is the guy I would really like to get, but I would be satisfied with Gomber as like another guy to grab. The only issue is, where does he fit? And that's really unclear at this point because he's not better than Chris Paddock. The bullpen is pretty crowded already. They're going to be welcoming back Brock Stewart, who threw on Friday night and looked good for St. Paul. So again, that's probably more of an off-season acquisition. But for me, Feltner, if you could get him, I think you could turn him into something really nice.
Well, I like that you're thinking down the road a little bit and not just about this season.
Yeah.
I'd say, talking about maybe adding a lefty, the left-handed part of the bullpen, as far as how they throw, that's the weakest part of the Twins bullpen. I don't know that that's an issue because some of their right-handed guys are fine, even very good against lefties.
Right.
Alco is good. Cole Sands is good. They're not left-handed pitchers, but you can throw them against anybody.
Right.
So I'm kind of indecisive on my last.
It's actually more beneficial too, because then you don't have to worry about them facing a righty after the fact.
The rules have changed as such and yet Rocco still has 3 lefties, so I don't know.
But I mean, if you have Caleb Thielbar and you have to face prime Jim Tomei followed by Frank Thomas, do you prefer to go Thielbar for both or Alcala for both?
Well, I'm glad they're not in the league anymore, but I would not really like Thielbar facing the best right-handed hitter of who's Aaron Judge or whatever.
Right.
That scares the whatever out of me.
Get him to take Soto and then Judge is right behind him.
Sure.
That's a good comparison.
So I'm just going to say I think it would be hilarious for the Twins to trade for Randy Arozarena and put him in left field. And, for lots of reasons, the swag is great. The bat is great. The history in the playoffs is great. Attitude. It would be fun as heck. It would stabilize left field and you wouldn't have to worry about it. You'd get a guy who's got one of the best postseason records already. He's obviously not afraid of anything as far as when that goes. It would energize, not that they lack energy, but it would add more.
But I bet you could get them to take like Alex Kirilloff and a pretty good prospect.
Yeah, I think it would probably take even more than that. He's not.
I just mean like that's their kind of trade.
Right. It would take maybe Wallner and Kirilov and somebody else, but I think he'd be absolutely fabulous, and it's probably a pipe dream. But he's supposed to be available. Yeah. He's supposed to be among the guys who are available from the Rays. That's who I'd go out with. And short of him, if you wanted to add a lefty, Tanner Scott would be good.
Yeah,
from the Marlins. But another relief pitcher, Lucas Ursig. They probably will add some kind of relief pitcher, I would hope, quietly and inexpensively, because that's the deepest part of the team.
Right. So, well, when you said hilarious acquisition, do you know who I thought of right away?
Nene Hilario.
Lance Lynn.
Yeah. It would be funny if the Orioles traded for Jack Flaherty, sort of on along those lines. Yeah. Again. But this isn't Locked On Orioles. Those people are.
But hey, themselves. If you want to check out Locked On Orioles, you should. Well, hey, that's all I got, Dave. You got your 10th as well. So we're
done. We're gonna go now.
So you had a Arozarena, or who did you have as your 10th? Sorry.
Yeah, Arozarena is the 10th guy.
Okay.
Or the 5th guy.
I'm gonna read off the list.
Yeah.
Yusei Kikuchi, Tariq Skubal, Nathan Eovaldi, Eric Fetty, Cal Quantrill, Zach Eflin, Jack Flaherty, Andrew Heaney, Ryan Feltner, or Austin Gomber, and then Randy Arozarena. I think Arozarena and Gomber were prospects in the Cardinals system at the same time.
They were. The Cardinals don't like to have good players around, so they ship them away.
Yep. Well, what can you say?
All right, that's going to wrap up this episode, this trade episode of pre-trade deadline episode of Locked On Twins. For Brandon Warren, this is Dave Brown saying we are going to see you tomorrow night.